The next stop is On the Radar Radio.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Yes, sir, baby. On the Radar Radio. Yo, special guest in the building. Rah-C in the building. How are you doing today, my
man?
brother?
I'm great, man. Great. I played some basketball today, which was nice. I feel like we're getting to that point. I'm going to a Yankee game after this, so getting the full.
Who the Yankees playing today?
Phillies.
Okay, word.
Yeah, but they're trash this year. I was kind of hyped, but I guess Bryce Harper's not playing, so I was like, all right, this is what? It'll be good though. It'll be good.
Well, like, let's talk about it, because actually the first piece of notes that I grabbed for you when I was getting ready for this interview was you had tweeted, "Opening day, I foresee either a World Series or extreme disappointment. Regardless, big year." I agree.
Yeah, I feel like it's been like 4 or 5 years of this. I don't know, like I always followed the Knicks, but I've sort of gotten off, like really invested my time into it. But the Yankees, I keep having that sort of level of hype where I get disappointed. So I don't know. Anybody who knows me is I talk highly about it until basically they get beat by the Astros, and then I just shut down. I'm like, oh, whatever.
Right, they get beat by the Astros, and that's like, fuck, man. Now we gotta.
I don't even care about the Red Sox anymore because the Astros are just, it just is what it is. But
right, I feel like every time we're like, yeah, we finna get one up on. And here's the worst part. I say this in all my interviews. I love Houston so much, not the team, but I love being in Houston. So it pains me every single time I have to fucking go to Houston for like a vacation, and I just chill. And I'm walking around with a goddamn Yankee hat, looking like an idiot. Like,
and the thing is too is like their players I don't even like dislike. Like the Red Sox I used to have like hatred towards. Like I used to not like certain players on the team, but the Astros, I'm like, they got some cool pieces, so it kind of aggravates me as a fan personally, but we'll see.
Let me get your full New York Yankees predictions for this year. You got a couple.
I think like 95 wins.
Okay.
I'd say 90, 95 wins. I think Judge goes slightly under 300, but has like 40, 45 home runs.
Right.
I think if Stanton stays healthy, he does the same. I want to say World Series, but like I said, I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of big talk.
It's been a long time for us, huh?
It just feels like there's these steps that don't get taken. So, as a fan, I'm obviously excited, but I feel like I'm trying to lessen the disappointment early, but
right.
I don't know.
It's a lot better when we were kids and they would win every couple of years.
Bro, that's the thing is like I grew up like my family. Like, my grandpa specifically used to, like, play baseball in Manhattan and would play with, like, Yankees at the time. And I feel like I had all these, like, hero-esque stories about these dudes. And growing up, obviously, the winning World Series and everything. Now, as an adult, I'm like, man, this shit is, like, where's that? I need that back.
It's depressing.
It is. But, I mean, listen, whatever. I feel like if you're spoiled for the first 20 years of my life, I feel like I can deal with it.
Right, like think of how many World Series we actually got to see. You know what I'm saying? Like we're actually very fortunate.
Right.
We get something that people don't even get in their lifetimes.
I don't know if you saw that video when the Cubs won the World Series. It was like this like 102-year-old man in his living room
I did see
crying.
that, yeah.
I was like, yo, that is. I literally like started bawling my eyes out. I was like, that is insane. Like living an entire life dedicated, and you're like right at the end of the road, and they finally squeeze one in. You're like, yo.
I could die in peace.
Yo, I was like, that's crazy to me, actually. It's crazy.
Oh, my God. So where are you from originally then?
So I'm from New York. Like, my whole family's from Queens, but I don't really like to, like, rep being in New York heavily like that because I've been here my whole adult life, like, in different boroughs, but I did my, like, more formal high school and middle school stuff upstate, like, 2 hours.
Okay.
So, like, I wasn't part of, like, the public school system here, so I don't like to, be like, oh, I'm a rep this borough or whatever. But I feel like I'm a New Yorker in terms of, like, even when I lived upstate, my whole family's from Queens. So I was, like, raised with a certain way of life, you know what I mean? But, yeah, I've just always been in New York.
Okay, and then but you're kind of like a jack of all trades. Like, you obviously are the artist, but you also produce and do a bunch of other stuff. So how did your whole music journey first begin?
Honestly, like, there wasn't much going on where I lived at the time. I was always playing, like my dad was a musician. He lived in Queens and he was always playing in bands and stuff. But upstate, like I was just freestyling and showing my friends, like typical like 14, 15-year-old stuff. And for whatever reason, I felt like I had like a natural ability to sort of explore. And, I was working on it for a long time and then started putting records out in high school, just like ripping beats off YouTube, like the typical at the time, type beats and stuff. And I don't know, I always felt like I wasn't doing enough. Like I wanted to get more hands-on with the production and, eventually to the mixing, things like that. So over time, it really was just like finding holes in where I felt my craft was lacking, and I needed to sort of fill that because I just hated like relying on people too. You know what I mean? Felt like if I wanted, I'd be working with a producer and they would take months, maybe sometimes for me to get like the proper time in, or if I had a note, it would take weeks. I'm like, man, if I could just learn how to do this myself,
Right.
I feel like it completely, knocks the need for a middleman out. And like, I don't want to be too selfish in my process where I'm not letting anyone in, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like I'm doing this from a place of loving creating, not, oh, let me get this beat from this person and let me put this verse on this. It's kind of like all simultaneous process, you know what I mean?
Right. So you kind of just were just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do everything. Do you still kind of self-record and all that yourself?
Yeah, I self-record everything out of my room and produce everything out of my room, just on like minimal gear. I got like my monitors, a little keyboard that I do my sampling on, and yeah, just do everything in there and mix all my stuff in there. I mean, probably to a fault to some degree sometimes, it's like, especially now that I'm doing more sample heavy stuff, like when I compare it, I feel like I get like the loudness and stuff, but sometimes like I'll listen to the like new Kendrick record. Like, damn, like that, the mixing on that is like a whole other, there's no way I could do that in my bedroom, you know what I mean?
Right.
So there's limitations.
I was about to say, like, I was having this conversation with my friend about this independent artist who we're both friends with. Not you. Don't worry, that's not me talking about you.
No,
but we
you're
were
good.
like, but they mixed themselves, right? And we were like, yo, like, the mixing on their records doesn't sound good, and that's kind of like what we're talking about here. It's like you do everything that it's like by the time you get to the mixing stage, like you even might be at a point where you're just like, yo, I just want this shit to be done. You know what I'm saying? And it's not saying that you're not good at mixing, but like sometimes it's like you got to just pass that shit off to somebody else to just kind of like, get that second ear because you've been working with that song at that point for like probably hours on hours already. So it's like,
Yeah, nah, for
probably
sure.
should just like let somebody else like do the mixing part of that.
I feel like the process goes a little hand in hand sometimes. Like by the time I get to the place where I feel like the song is done, the mix is already sort of there. Like sometimes now I've been like, I'm a little ahead of schedule, so I'll allow myself some time if I make a new song to be like, all right, let me put this away maybe in like another month or two.
Yeah.
When it's ready to like actually see the world, I'll take steps in finishing the mix. But like I said, it all kind of feels hand in hand to me, you know what I mean?
Right.
But not to say, I definitely have a lot of flaws as a mixer. I'm trying to improve on, but I just, again, it sort of kills the momentum for me. The momentum to me is everything. If I make a song, I make a beat in a day, and I write and record and everything, and then I got to try to track down someone to mix it, and they got, these sessions and this and that, and then also money too. It really came from a place of like, I'm a pretty frugal dude, and like I'm really trying to be on my independent artist shit, you know what I mean? So I can't spend, if I want to put out, 20, 30 songs in a year, that's $4 or $5 grand, just in mixing a year, which the way I look at it, I'm like, I'd rather take the time to improve and do it myself. Over time, I could probably save myself $100,000 by just like putting in that little bit of effort. But not to say that mixing engineers aren't necessary, because if I had the ability, I would just give it to some dude who could.
Right. If you had like 5 bands to just throw and be like, ah, cool,
yeah,
bah,
yeah,
here, mix all my shit for
exactly,
me.
yeah.
It'd be over.
And I've done that a few times, but again, when you're at a certain stage and you might only have $3,000, you spend $2,000 of that on mixing, and then those songs don't even necessarily perform as well as the other ones you just did in your bedroom. You're like, well, is it right now at least? Is it necessary to sort of do all that extra shit when I feel like I'm happy with the result as it is? You know what I mean?
Right. I think, yeah, I definitely understand that, and it can be hard too, because like the money I feel like is like always the hardest part, because investing money as an independent artist isn't like simple. You know what I'm saying?
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. And now you don't know what's gonna work, especially with like TikTok, and now obviously all the other apps are like adjusting to it. I mean, kids are in their bedroom putting clips up that's like purposely distorted. It's like recorded in some app on their iPhone. I've been seeing, I don't even know.
BandLab,
Yeah,
BandLab.
BandLab.
Yeah, everybody uses BandLab.
Yeah, and like, it's literally, I've seen some recently where it's like a screen recording of their BandLab session and the shit goes nuts. And it's like, well, how can you compete with that when you just spend $15,000 on a video and it gets a fraction of the views, So it's
Right.
kind of like you got to sort of reroute the systems and figure out, all right, it might not be about having the, like, this huge production. Obviously, if you're like, I mean, you look at like a Travis Scott video that's got like crazy CGI and shit, that's a different thing. But I feel like on a more lower level, it feels better to do things more to scale and be like, yo, this is where I'm at in life. Like I'm not trying to put on an image, or I'm not trying to fake a narrative through the visual aspect. Like I really just be like at my crib working, go down the street, get some food, go to work. You know, it's like regular shit. So I feel like I can capture that by like the means that I have. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Working smarter, not harder.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've learned over time because I've always been overly ambitious, and I feel like a lot of times I get disappointed that like my end result doesn't quite match where I thought my ambition was going to take it.
Right.
So now I feel like I'm learning to embrace the regular shit. Like I just be kicking it. I'm not trying to act like you know, I don't want to act like I'm a rapper, you know what I mean? Like to a degree, but when I
Right.
get on the mic, I mean, when I'm holding the mic, I'm in front of people, I feel like that braggadocio can come out, but like on my day to day, you know, I don't be walking around like I'm all that or trying to think I am, because that's just, you know,
Right.
not where I'm trying to be at ever.
I get the feeling of like wanting to be overly ambitious, and then like sometimes like the end product not really being what you expected it.
100%.
But I think that's just like part of the that's just kind of like part of like the creative process. Is like sometimes your overly ambitious shit is gonna work, and then like other times like it won't. I think it was funny because I actually heard somebody say this the other day, and I feel like this is for everybody. Like, you know, artists will be like, oh, it's my least favorite song that becomes my biggest song. Or I was watching this other video of a content creator. He's like, you know, like the artists who I'm really passionate about, who I bring on my show, they don't always do as well as the artists who I'm not as passionate about. Like the artists who they're not passionate about is like they always do better, right? And I feel that same way in a certain sense too. So I just think it's funny how like everybody feels the same way about things, but that's just like at the end of the day, that's just kind of how the world works. Oddly enough. You know
Nah,
what I'm saying?
totally. I mean, I can understand from your perspective, like you're pulling in so many different acts and having so many people come through here, and like you're tapped in, but obviously people have different days. Like some people have good days and bad days. So like you could be so hyped about someone and they just had some shit go on and they pull up here and they're like, all right, I gotta, you know, sort of work through that and, you know, perform and give a performance. But sometimes it's like easier said than done, you know?
Yep,
So,
easier said than done.
So I guess there's levels to it in that regard. You know what I
Right.
mean?
So what's your relationship with like Johnny Nunez? Like how long have y'all been tied together?
So I haven't talked to Johnny in a minute, admittedly. I just been caught up in my shit, but that's actually how I met Calvin originally.
Calvin.
But yo, Johnny, I owe a lot of like my perspective really to Johnny, because I had just moved back to New York City. I was like 18 years old. Met him in a few days of me being there. And for whatever reason, he just latched on to my drive and was like, yo, like, come out. Like, mind you, I literally had no connections at all. Like, I didn't have people in the city who were working on music. And I did an open mic somewhere for my brother. Johnny happened to be there for whatever reason, and as I've learned now, he just be everywhere. So
yeah,
that's just,
Johnny's definitely just everywhere.
But he kind of just saw what I was up to, and at the time, I really didn't think it was much like to be desired from his perspective with the people and the company that he was around every day. But he just decided like, yo, come out with me, and we started kicking it. I started, you know, helping him out with stuff, doing favors for him, and meeting him out, and he would, you know. It was surreal, honestly. Like, I think back, because right now, COVID kind of just got in the way of our stuff. Like, I was sort of heading in a new direction. My head wasn't probably where it should have been. I was 21 years old, because he was managing me for a little while.
Okay.
But it was really like, you know, COVID had just happened. He has a family. He's got kids and shit. Like, I was being overly ambitious, and I was being a little bit self-destructive and from, like, a creative standpoint, because I was like, nah, I want to try this and dive into this. And we weren't able to like connect as much, get up. You know, there was nothing happening in the city. People weren't really trying to do much. So, you know, things just sort of went how they went. But it's all love for him. But sad to say, he brought me in some crazy rooms. And like, there was some early time. We were just talking before. We're at the show, and like, you know, me and Calvin are like wallflowers, just kind of standing around like, yo, how are we in this room? And, you know, Kevin Durant's like 10 feet away. I'm over here just like, I'm going to just stand here and pretend I don't see him. But I mean, dude really put me in some rooms, you know, would literally walk me up to Nas one time. And I was, you know, there's certain people, like I've met a lot of people in terms of like, I don't fan out about shit like that. But I mean, Nas, I was like, come on, bro. Like, this is make-believe. You didn't just like, you know, walk me up. And because I was with him, he like dapped me up and felt like, all right, this dude isn't like a weirdo. So that was a crazy time in my life. And now I'm like, again, like I said, it's all love. I just, things happen. People sort of just go in different paths. But I owe a lot to that dude, really, in terms of my perspective and like understanding of hip hop and how the industry works, the scene. Because I had a lot of meetings and different label meetings and production teams and sync licensing and even just being out in the scene, like seeing what rappers are out at where and who goes where. I went to a few clubs with him where it was like rappers would pull up, NBA players would pull up. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Because to me, it's like, like a pipe dream, really, So I owe a lot to that dude. It's all love. But yeah, I would say that's kind of where things are with him.
Shout out Johnny, man.
Yo, for real though.
I also saw you started this like new series, like the NYC Exploder.
Yeah. I have this tape coming out. I haven't fully announced it, but for the sake of this podcast, I mean, it's going to be called The Brain Exploder.
Okay.
It's this project I've been working on for a few months. And I just thought, with promo and stuff, I'm working with this new team now, and I was like, yo, let me just think of some ways to sort of make some content, because I was always very hesitant about, like, the word content. It really bugged me for a minute, where people are like, oh, you got to get your content up. And, I mean, you guys know, you guys are, like, content kings, really, what you got going on here.
Thank
like,
you, bro.
No, shit is really impressive, honestly. Like, the minute I've followed you guys, like, way back, like, my feed now is pretty much all, just different clips from you guys. But that's intentional. You guys do that, you know what you're doing. So, like, I basically was like, yo, I'm tired of trying to reach with, content ideas. Obviously, people got to figure out what works for them. But I was like, yo, let me just go around New York City and just take some videos of me rapping in front of different places, because, the rest of the world, people fantasize about New York City, people in Europe, people from the Midwest, West Coast, like, who have never been here, maybe they've been here like 1 or 2 times. The scenes sell themselves, and it's free. Like, I don't gotta rent out a studio hall or a space or a room. I can just, or design anything. I could just sit in front of this building that's 250 years old with some cool, neon sign and just rap. And, like, to me, I mean, it's a new thing. I've only posted a few of them, but to me, it feels like a cool way to, like, share my music, but also show people different parts of New York. I want to kind of cover trendy places, go to Times Square, go to, parts of Financial District, go to parts of Brooklyn and Queens, but also go to, like, some random places that no one would go, some old pizza shop or some, old restaurant or structure in, deep South Brooklyn. Like, I feel I'm still getting out there and kind of just trying to cover some ground, but we'll see. It's just like a new idea I'm trying to mess with.
So the new project's coming soon.
Soon, yeah. I'm just dropping some singles in the meantime. I got one coming in a few weeks that I'm really excited about. So yeah, I'm just trying to do a little bit more of a rollout. I've always been very impulsive and just been like, all right, I'm gonna just flood everything because I got all this music. But now I'm trying to be more intentional with it.
Word. And what's the name of the project? Brain Exploder?
Yeah, the Brain Exploder.
The Brain Exploder. So that'll be out by the summertime.
Definitely by the summertime for
Click
sure.
Click is out now too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then what's the new single called?
New one is gonna be called Everybody's Concerned.
That's your camera.
Everybody is concerned.
Are we concerned about you?
Nah. It's more. Well, maybe, but it's it's more just like people are always concerned about shit. Like, the story is just being concerned about shit that they don't need to be concerned about. Like, people pick and choose when to show fake concern. I would say fake concern is more emphasis. Like, especially this in the industry that you're in, like, you be moving around. People pick and choose when they want to be focused on something, when they want to, like, give an ear to something, because even in the chorus, it's kind of just mentioning, like, when you don't know nothing, you always have something you can learn. But when you know something, everybody's concerned. Like, everybody wants to know, like, yo, what's the deal? What's going on with that? So I feel like for me, especially because I'm just like a server at a restaurant in Bushwick. So I deal with a lot of bullshit from people, you know what I mean? And it's a neighborhood local spot too. It's not some, like, I'm not getting a lot of, like, trendy people who move in here from wherever. It's like a real neighborhood spot. So I, deal with a lot of different types of people, and feel like I've noticed when people can be very picky and choosy over shit. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah,
So,
that's a fact.
So now I'm just trying to like take that perspective and like implement it in my music and actually, you know, try to have conversations with myself and the audience or whoever, you know, things like that. So
Word. Brain Exploder. The Brain Exploder. Coming soon.
Brain Exploder.
So by the time people see this right now, the freestyle is out, so go check that out. I appreciate you being here, bro. You know what I'm saying?
I really appreciate you having me, man. I can't say that enough. Sorry I kind of showed up a little early and got in your way.
Nah, it's cool. No. It's all good. I just got to let my brain flow.
Nah, of
before.
course,
Oh,
yeah.
Cal's questions. Yes, one second.
Yes.
I just got to let my brain flow. Go ahead, Cal. Come on. Let's go. Cal's questions, everybody. You wrote it down this time? We're getting professional now.
Look at that.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Cal's Questions. Today, my question for you is, you know, being someone you do a lot of things yourself. You produce the tracks. You'll cut the samples. You'll sing or you'll rap on the tracks as well. Not to mention engineer and everything else you mentioned earlier. But when you early on in your career, when you were getting started into all this, who was one artist or one artist producer, one man artist that you have looked up to when you were getting started?
Thank you, Cal.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. I mean, it's hard to like pin down to one person. I feel like Kanye to me has always been. I feel like he's the quintessential example of that. In terms of feeling like he, you know, someone who really controls the whole process. But it's hard to like pin down one particular person to me. It's always changing. Growing up, I was really more so studying like rapping. Like I was, you know, taking in every Nas, Big L, you know, Big Daddy Kane, Cool G, like really going back and trying to take all that in as a rapper. And then when I sort of 19, 20 years old is when I started to feel like, yo, I could maybe do this. And a lot of that was listening to, you know, Madlib and Alchemist and a lot of those types of, and Kanye, I feel like to me was always the bridge between those two. So while it does feel maybe a little obvious of an answer, Kanye to me was always the guy who made me feel like it was possible that I could rap on my, because I mean, especially after watching that Kanye documentary, I was like, man, this is not that it feels like me because the setting is 1000% different, but just like internally, I feel like I could understand his frustration and where he felt like he had ideas inside that he couldn't get out. And I related to that like super heavy. So Kanye is always someone I've looked at as the sort of cream of the crop in that conversation, in my opinion. Obviously, there's a lot of dudes. More recently, I've been diving into like the early solo LP stuff for Run the Jewels, and that has sort of like rewired a lot of stuff in my brain as to what's possible on the more underground, like bombastic production style of stuff. But I feel like I'm always taking it. I feel like every few months I find an artist that completely changes my whole perspective.
Word. Good answer.
Yeah.
Good question.
Good question. Thank you.
Good question. Well, like I said, by the time y'all see this, freestyle is out now, so make sure you go run that up. I appreciate you being here, my brother. Before we get out of here, let the people know they can follow you. Anything else you want to let them know? Now is the time to do it. This camera right here.
This camera. You can follow me at Rah-C Lyrical. That's RAHC Lyrical. Otherwise, I feel, you know, I got a large catalog. I hope if you get to watch the freestyle, it makes you want to go click and listen. I feel like I have a lot of different flavors for everyone. So appreciate whoever clicked on this and gave me the time of day, and for you guys for having me. So thank you.
Of course, man. Well, I appreciate you being here. Like I said, freestyle out now. New project on the way. New singles out now. So make sure you go run all those up. Make sure you go follow him. Go show him some love. Go show him some support. Love is free. Support is free. But y'all already do that. Till next time, Rah-C on the radar. We out. Boom, my guy. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Thanks, man.